What's crack-a-lacking, y'all? My name is Oriafe, and I'm a first-year medical student who makes videos about college as a pre-med and my med school journey. So if you're interested in any of that, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. As you can tell by the title of this video, I am in a BSMD program at Howard University. And what's special about my program is that it's a 6-year program. So that means I completed college in 2 years instead of 4. So you can imagine my experience was a little bit different. And in this video, I'm going to answer questions off of Instagram, as well as some questions that I'm asked often about my program.
I don't need a residency to feel better.
A few days ago on my Instagram story, I said that I was making a video about my 6-year BSMD program and asked viewers to let me know any topics that I should cover or questions that they have. In this video, I'll be answering those. And if you have any specific questions, check the timestamps in the description so that way you can find out whatever you want to know personally. And feel free to comment any additional questions below. Quick disclaimer, everything I'm saying in this video is my opinion. I am not on any type of admissions committee. I'm just speaking from my experience, and other people who went through the program may say different things. Everything is pretty subjective, but I do hope my perspective helps. Without further ado, let's get into it. If I look down, I'm just looking at my iPad, which has the questions. So the first question is, was the process of you getting into the program stressful? Short answer is yes, it was. It was a little stressful. I think the stress was a summation of the fact that I was applying to multiple of these programs at different schools, not just Howard, because I wanted to do BSMD. I had a lot of other obligations to do my senior year of high school, and there's so much that goes into trying to become a competitive applicant for these programs. You have to try to get medical experience, volunteer work, other extracurriculars, leadership. The list goes on. If you want to hear about everything you need to do to get in the program, you can watch my BSMD Ultimate Guide video, which I will place in the little iCard. But there's just so much that goes into it, and trying to balance living my actual life with that was so stressful for me. But I guess it was worth it. Next question is, how did I find out about it? In all honesty, I wasn't even the one who discovered the programs. My dad was actually the one who found out about them, and he told me, and it went from there. Third question is, have you ever had second thoughts about BSMD? Why and what helped you push forward? Have I ever had second thoughts? This is a loaded question. I don't think I had second thoughts about being in a BSMD program once I got in, but before, I would say I definitely did have second thought. It was more so questioning whether I want to be a doctor as opposed to questioning whether I want to go through the BSMD route. The thing about BSMD programs is that they're very binding. Once you sign that contract, you gotta go through with it unless you somehow fall out of the program. In high school, when I was first introduced to the concept of a BSMD program, I wasn't sure I wanted to go through with it because I still had other career options in mind that were pretty related but not the same. I was considering becoming a nurse practitioner, becoming a PA, physician assistant, or I think they're calling them physician associates now. I was also considering going to college as a psych major and becoming a CBT therapist, cognitive behavioral therapist, but I didn't firmly decide that medicine was the fit for me until I got some more experiences in my senior year of high school. But no, once I got into the program and started it, I didn't have any thoughts of quitting at all. And what helped me push forward? I'd say my support system, my friends, definitely helped me push forward. My faith definitely played a major role in keeping me sane throughout the process. And in addition to that, I set a lot of short-term goals. So rather than being like, whoop, in 2025, I want to be a doctor, I would be like, this semester, I want to get straight A's. This semester, I want to put my all into this class. So I really just try to take baby steps and take things one day at a time. And that's really what helped me. I forgot I was making this a mukbang. Or is it mukbang? How do you pronounce it?
Mukbang. Mukbang.
Mukbang. Mukbang. I wanted to make this a mukbang, but I didn't feel like wasting money and ordering food, so I made ramen noodles. I don't know if you can see that, with tofu and habanero peppers. Hashtag broke med student. Let me get some water. Back to the Q&A. Did you feel you got enough support from your advisor? If you're talking about my regular biology major advisor, answer is no. Honestly, I feel like all she did was send me my alternate PIN to register for classes. I made this way too spicy. If I start crying, mind your business. But if you're talking about my program advisor for the BSMD program, I feel like in the moment, I wouldn't have given this answer, but now that I'm kind of on the other side of it, and looking back, I do think she did quite a bit. Our advisor scheduled meetings with us pretty regularly, made us go to a lot of different seminars with med schools and people who are medical school students, set us up with med students to help us write our personal statements, connected us with the HU Pump program to help us get Kaplan resources for MCAT studying, assigned us mentors and mentees with people who are either older or younger in the program, looked at our schedules that we prepared for the following semesters. The list goes on. She did do a lot. So yes, I feel like I got a lot of support from her, but there could still be some improvement. Through my BSMD advisor, I was able to make a lot of connections and learn a lot of things I wouldn't have known otherwise. So my undergrad process was a lot more smooth because of my advisor, I'd say. But yeah, there's always room for improvement. Oh, look at all the lonely people. I cannot sing. Not my noodles getting cold. Let me know in the comments whether you like tofu. I absolutely love it, but I'm pescatarian, so I can't not. I'm being dramatic. I know I'm Nigerian, but like, this is still spicy. I still have so many questions to get through. The next question was asking me to talk about school-life balance. I feel like this looks different for me in med school than it did for the first 2 years when I was an undergrad. So when I was an undergrad, I largely maintained this balance by trying to separate my schoolwork from the rest of my life. By that, I mean I confined how much time I spent working, where I work, and separated that from how much time I spend doing other things and where I rest. So what do I mean by that? In undergrad, before COVID happened, I only did work in libraries. And once the library closed, if I for some reason still had to work, I would go to a lounge rather than go to my bedroom, because I just tried to make my bedroom a space for relaxation and peace. That way, when I was in the library, I was in work mode and being as efficient as I could be. And when I was in my dorm, I could relax. And most days, unless I had a test coming up the next day or 2 days from then, I would cut off my work immediately the library closes. So once it hit midnight, that was it. So yeah, it was kind of like clocking out of work for me. Because you know, once you clock out, you're out, running. But that all went to what word should I use? That all got messed up when COVID came and hit us like a truck. And then my library and my bedroom became the same place. But even when I was studying for the MCAT at home, I tried to confine the time I spent studying. So I would be like, okay, I'm studying from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. And once it was 7 p.m., I would do my homework for school. Oh my gosh, that was such a stressful time. But anyway, in med school, I more so find my work-life balance by doing other things. Let me tell you what med school feels like. It feels like you're running. Take an exam, get a break. Breathe for 5 seconds, back to running. But anyway, when I'm in that little break, which is usually like a Monday afternoon or a weekend that I don't have an exam coming up, I try to do something to relax or just have fun. I may hang out with my friends, maybe go to a restaurant, maybe just watch Netflix. Whatever I'm up to during those times, I just do something for myself. That way I'm nice and recharged to get back to running. Okay, this one is 2 questions. If you could change something about the process, what would it be and why? I.e. less credit hours, more chances for 504, etc. And the second question is, what advantages and disadvantages do you think comes with being the youngest in the class and likely your future residency? So to answer the first question, I think the second thing you said is exactly what I would say, that there would be more chances to get the 504. Either that or just scrap the MCAT requirement completely. I feel like with the pace of the program, it's already stressful enough, and only having one chance to get the 504 adds so much pressure. Like, I don't know if you saw my MCAT score reaction video, but like you could tell like I was really scared because it was either I got it or I didn't, and that was it. And I feel like only having one chance to get the 504 made the studying process much more stressful than it had to be, and I'd say even increased my anxiety while I was taking the exam, which is already stressful enough. I don't want to use the word hate, but I really strongly dislike how it's possible to take 10 practice exams, get above a 504 on most of your exams, and then get in the testing center, take the exam in April, and not pass it, and that's it. But yeah, other BSMD programs that are similar allow you to take the MCAT multiple times or just don't have MCAT requirements at all. But yeah, that's just my opinion. I highly doubt any students would disagree with me, but if you do, let me know in the comments. So to answer the second question about the advantages and disadvantages that come with being young. Advantages, it's a good conversation starter. Many people will hear how old I am and be like, they'll be so shocked. But apart from that, I just like the fact that I'm able to get to where I want to be in life more quickly. But honestly, I feel like my med school experience is largely similar to most people's med school experience. Disadvantages, I wouldn't really say this is a disadvantage. It's more of just something that I've observed and something that I live. I find that I'm kind of at a different place in life than many of the people in my class. Even though we are all in med school and learning the same thing at the same time, it's like some people in my class are married and I'll be like, wow, you're married, and then some people will have kids and it's like, wow, you have kids. And seeing how independent most of the other people are, it's just kind of weird. Like, I'm an adult, but like I'm not an adult, you feel? And most of the people are adults. But I look at it as a good thing because there is a lot I can learn from the people I'm surrounded by. But yeah, that's just kind of like an observation I've had. Oh, and for residency, I mean, I can't really feel the disadvantages that far ahead. Moving on, can I marry you, doctor? You know, I don't see why not. Apart from the fact that we're both straight, totally, I'm down. For legal purposes, that was a joke. Love you though. How fast and rigorous is the curriculum? Like I said earlier, you're kind of squeezing 4 years worth of work into 2, but I feel like it's not as bad as it sounds. We were required to take 19 to 24 credits per semester, and the lowest I took one semester was 19 when I was sitting for the MCAT, and the highest was 23. But I actually only ended up taking about 90 credits, which is about 3 years worth of work actually. We had to take all the medical school prerequisites as well as all the Howard general education type classes. That's like English, African American studies, stuff like that. But yeah, taking 19 to 24 credits is really only taking 1 to 2 extra classes that you wouldn't typically take at a time. So it sounds kind of crazy, but it really was not as bad. We also had to take organic chemistry over the summer, which was, I don't even want to talk about it. It was stressful, but yeah, it was very rigorous but doable. The major problem for me was keeping up with schoolwork while studying for the MCAT. I feel like that was probably the most stressful experience of my entire life, because think about it. I spent about 6 to 10 hours, usually around 8, every day studying for the MCAT, on top of studying, taking 19 credits of classes. So that was a very high stress and fast period of time, for me at least. I don't know what it was for other people, but yeah, it's doable. But I just kept reminding myself that there is life on the other side of the MCAT, and now I'm living it. So yeah, everything happens in seasons. But to answer your question, pretty fast. Advice for high school juniors who want to attend these programs? Definitely, I'd say get exposure in the field of medicine, or even if it's just science or healthcare as a whole. Getting experience not only will help you decide whether you even want to sign a binding contract tying you to become a doctor, but it will also help your application. So whatever you can do, I'd recommend doing. Whether that be getting some research in, shadowing a doctor, volunteering at a hospital, whatever that may be for you, I'd recommend getting some sort of exposure. I hope that was helpful, but that's honestly what I wish I had heard when I was in 11th grade. Is there a certain GPA you have to maintain? The answer is yes. We have to maintain a 3.25 science GPA as well as a 3.5 overall GPA every semester. Are you required to take the MCAT during the program? Yes, we do have to take the MCAT, and we actually have a score cutoff, which is a 504. And you have to take it in April of your second year. Next question. Pros and cons of your specific program. Major pro is the fact that it's 6 years. I get to save time, I get to save money. What more can I ask for? Another pro would probably just be the fact that it's at Howard, and that's something that no other BSMD program can say. I might be a little biased because Howard was my top choice anyway. I would have gone to Howard even if I didn't get into the program. I love the culture here, I love the people here, I love the family aspect of going to Howard, and there's so many opportunities in DC and so much to do in DC, especially if you like going to brunch. There are a lot of places to get brunch here. And there are also a lot of historical places and museums. I don't know if I'm as excited about them, largely because I already grew up in the area and I've basically seen most of it already, but there's a lot to do here. I also specifically love the people who were in my cohort for the program. Some of my closest friends on campus I met through the BSMD program. Another huge pro was that BSMD students are considered honors students. Even though we're not technically in the honors program, we still get the benefits of being considered honor students. And by that I mean we get to choose our classes before everyone else, meaning we can get the professors we want before everyone else. We get to choose our housing before everyone else, so we're less likely to not get housing. And I don't think you understand how much of a perk it is to be able to register a week before everyone else. Registration spots be going away so quickly, but getting your first choice of professor can definitely impact how well you do in a class. So I'm glad we were considered honor students. Cons? I wouldn't really consider this a con, but it's more of a non-pro. Our application process was pretty similar to most other applicants' processes. And by that I mean we had to fill out the MCAT, we had to write a personal statement, we had to get letters of recommendation, we had like 60 mandatory volunteer hours to do. We had to keep up a high GPA, we had to get a good MCAT score, and the MCAT score had a cutoff. We had to do an interview. We basically had to do all these things but didn't have as much time to do it as the other applicants. But the pro within that is that you only had to do it for one school, as opposed to flying around the country to interview at different schools and writing different supplemental applications for all these different schools. So the application process was less stressful, but if someone were to just be applying to Howard alone anyway, our process is identical to theirs. But yeah, that isn't too bad, but it's just something that we have to do. Whereas a lot of other BSMD programs may not have to do everything in that list. But I could still say that our process was less stressful overall. Another con, I think this is my last con, but Howard's program does not have that much safety within it. And for a lot of people, the main reason they apply to a BSMD program is for the safety. Oh, even if I don't take the MCAT, I can still get into med school. Even if I don't work that hard in college, I can still get into med school easy peasy. The thing is, it's not easy peasy here. I feel like we just have a lot of requirements to meet, which we do always know ahead of time, but you're basically not guaranteed a spot once you get into the program. But that's fine, because when you apply, they highlight all the requirements on the website, and when you get in and at the first meeting, you read through the contract and read through all the requirements, so that way you do know what you're getting yourself into. I'm just saying that it was not an easy process to go through. But one thing about life is that it's never gonna be easy. You can just do what you can to make it easier. I hope I'm making sense. I really don't know. But if you have any questions, remember to comment down below if I'm speaking gibberish and you're not getting what I'm saying. Final question. What does your typical day/schedule consist of? Example, studying, class, free time, etc. I'm gonna separate this into the first 2 years versus my experience in med school so far, because they both look quite different. In undergrad, my schedule basically shifted from semester to semester depending on what time my different classes were, but I'm just going to use an example schedule from my second semester of my first year, which was before COVID came and took over. So I usually started my classes at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. and I'd go to class, and then around 11 a.m. I would go for lunch, which was my first meal of the day. I'd probably spend 30 minutes to an hour eating lunch depending on how much time I had before the next class. Then I'd go back to classes, usually until around 5 p.m. or so. And then after classes ended at 5 p.m., I went to the caf for dinner. So maybe I'll be in the caf until 6:30. And then once I finish eating, socializing, whatever I wanted to do in the caf, I would go to the library and study till midnight. Once it hit midnight, I was to bed. So then I would go to sleep and then wake up about an hour before my classes started. So with that, on the average day, I probably spent about 5 to 7 hours studying. I forgot to mention, in between classes, if I wasn't getting lunch, I would go to the library and study then as well. And I was quite involved on campus. So if I ever had a meeting for something else, it usually fell in that range after 5 p.m. So I would basically just do that instead of spending the time studying. So it's not like, oh, there's an event, but I need to study. Unless I had an exam coming up, if there was an event, I could go to it. But yeah, I basically stuck to that routine, and I don't know, worked for me. Now in med school, my schedule is also very dictated by what the schedule for the classes are, because some days we have labs, some days we don't. So it really varies, but it's pretty consistent at the same time. A typical day in med school, lectures would start at 8 a.m., maybe run till noon or so, but it varies depending on the unit. Nowadays, we've been spending a lot more time in the anatomy lab. I've spent anywhere from 1 to 4 hours there. Sometimes I come back on the weekends or come back after hours, but most days lecture is over by noon, and then you kind of just do whatever you want for the rest of the day. But that doing whatever you want most times consists of studying. And nowadays my goal is to try to go to sleep by midnight still, but I usually end up going to sleep around 1. And if I were to have gone to sleep really late, I wouldn't go to the lecture the next day, and I would just watch the recordings during that designated studying time. And as for free time, I usually spend my free time watching YouTube videos, watching Netflix, hanging out with friends, making YouTube videos. But the thing about free time in med school, in my opinion, is that you won't have it unless you decide to have it. Honestly, med school is actually pretty flexible. You're really in control of whatever your schedule is going to be. And that was the last question. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to comment any questions below, and I hope I was able to answer some of your questions. Subscribe if you want to see more BSMD and med school content. Like this video if you enjoyed, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Adios.